Welcome class. In this session, we'll be discussing regarding amphibolic pathway of respiration. Similarly, we'll discuss regarding respiratory quotient. So respiration in the true sense, if we look into the equation, it is considered as a catabolic process because, so in case of respiration, what happens? A complex molecule, it will be broken down into, so complex molecule will be oxidized. It will into the simple form. So hence, in the sense, we can consider respiration as a catabolic process. So respiration can be considered as a catabolic process, right? But if we see here, the intermediates that are produced during the respiration, they are used in the synthesis of certain complex molecule also. So hence, in the true sense, if we say, so respiration, it favors both the catabolism as well as anabolism. So it is involved in the breakdown or the catabolic process also. It is involved in the synthesis process or the anabolism also. So by considering this in the true sense, respiration can be considered as a amphibolic pathway. That means it says that it is involved in both catabolic as well as the anabolic reaction. So how we can explain this amphibolic nature of the respiration? So we'll see in the amphibolic pathway. So in case of respiration, what happens? The complex molecules or the respiratory substrates such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats, all those will be broken down, isn't it? So these molecules, when they are broken down into simple forms, okay, so fats will be broken down into fatty acid and glycerol. Similarly, carbohydrates will be converted into simple sugars such as glucose. Proteins will be broken down into amino acids. So now, if we look in case of these molecules, so this fatty acid and glycerol, they may further undergo oxidation in order to get a simplified molecule such as dihydroxyacetone phosphate. Similarly, they may also form the acetyl coenzyme A. So further breakdown of fatty acid, it results in the formation of dihydroxyacetone phosphate and acetyl coenzyme A. So that is the catabolic pathway for the fats. Whereas coming to carbohydrates, if we see, so it will be undergoing glycolysis, forming a pyruvic acid. Further, it forms acetyl coenzyme A that enters into Krebs cycle. And finally, it will be oxidized into carbon dioxide and water. Whereas coming to the proteins, so proteins will be broken down to form amino acids, and these amino acids, they further undergo oxidation, resulting in the formation of acetyl coenzyme, pyruvic acid, right? So this pyruvic acid will be in turn converted to acetyl coenzyme A and it enters the Krebs cycle. So all these are the catabolic pathways that are associated with the respiration. Whereas if we look in case of the intermediates that are produced in this particular catabolic process, such as if we consider the acetyl coenzyme A. So it is one of the common intermediate that is produced due to breakdown of the fats, proteins, as well as the carbohydrates. So this acetyl coenzyme A is produced as oxidation of this substrate. And the other hand, this acetyl coenzyme A, it acts as a precursor for the fat biosynthesis. So it is used in the lipid biosynthesis. So it is involved in the production of the lipids also. So hence, this acetyl coenzyme A, it is a product of catabolic reaction, but it takes parts in the anabolic reaction also, right? Where acetyl coenzyme A is used as a precursor in the synthesis of fats. Whereas here, the glucose 6-phosphate that is formed upon the oxidation, during glycolysis. So this glucose 6-phosphate, it can be in turn converted into glucose 1-phosphate, and further this glucose 1-phosphate, it may result in the formation, it can be used in the synthesis of starch. So hence the same glucose molecule which is formed upon the breakdown or the intermediate of the glycolysis, it is used in the biosynthesis of complex carbohydrates also. Similarly, here if we consider pyruvic acid, so this pyruvic acid and the various intermediates of the Krebs cycle, such as alpha ketoglutarate, or it may be the succinic acid or the succinate, all these are used in the biosynthesis of the amino acid. So they are used in the synthesis of amino acid. So pyruvic acid is used in the synthesis of alanine, that is one amino acid. Alpha ketoglutarate is used in the production of the glutamic acid, whereas succinate, it is used in the production of tryptophan. And all this amino acid, they will be used in the protein biosynthesis once again, right? So similarly, this tryptophan, it can also be involved in the synthesis of indole acetic acid. So it is a precursor for indole acetic acid. It also acts as a precursor for certain nucleic acid also. Okay, so hence this particular intermediates of the Krebs cycle as well as the intermediates of the glycolysis, they can be used in the synthesis of the complex molecules such as fats, complex carbohydrates, and proteins also. So hence, this respiration, the pathway or the process of respiration, it is coupled with both catabolism as well as the anabolism. So that's why respiration is considered as a amphibolic pathway. So that is regarding the amphibolic nature of the respiration. So in the next part, we'll be discussing regarding respiratory quotient. So what is this respiratory quotient? So respiratory quotient can be defined as it is the ratio of volume of carbon dioxide evolved to that of the volume of oxygen consumed. So that is called as respiratory quotient. So for the different respiratory substrate, respiratory quotient will be different. For example, if we consider carbohydrates, so this is the equation for the carbohydrate oxidation, where 6 molecules of oxygen will be utilized in order to release 6 molecules of carbon dioxide. And if you are calculating the respiratory quotient here, so it will be 1. Whereas for the fats such as tripalmitin, so it will use 145 molecules of oxygen for complete oxidation of a fatty acid in order to release 1 or 2 molecules of carbon dioxide as well as 98 molecules of water. So here, if you are calculating respiratory quotient, it will be 0.7. It will be less than 1. Whereas for the proteins also, respiratory quotient will be less than 1 because they require more oxygen for the complete breakdown of the protein, and the amount of carbon dioxide released will be less. Whereas considering the respiratory quotient for organic acid, such as oxalic acid, so it is a 4-carbon acid, 2-carbon organic acid. So once this oxalic acid is oxidized, okay, so it gives rise to, so oxalic acid will be oxidized in the presence of 2 molecules of oxalic acid, will be oxidized in the presence of 1 molecule of oxygen, giving rise to the, so it gives rise to, it will be oxidized into, in the presence of 1 molecule of oxygen, it gives rise to 4 molecule of carbon dioxide as well as the water. So hence here, if we calculate the respiratory quotient, it will be 4 by 1, that is 4. Whereas for the malic acid, so 2 molecules of malic acid, they will be oxidized in the presence of oxygen, giving rise to almost up to, so 2 molecules of oxygen will be utilized for the oxidation of malic acid, which gives rise to almost 6 molecules of, 3 molecules of carbon dioxide, and the respiratory quotient, it will be up to 1.3 if you calculate. Similarly, the respiratory quotient for the organic acids that are obtained from the carbohydrates. So when the carbohydrates are oxidized, such as glucose, when it is oxidized into a malic acid. So here, in case of conversion of carbohydrate into organic acid, the amount of oxygen utilized will be, so 6 molecules of oxygen will be utilized, but there will be no production of carbon dioxide. So if you want to calculate respiratory quotient for the organic acids produced from the carbohydrate, it will be 0 by 6. So 0 divided by something will be 0. So hence respiratory quotient for organic acids produced upon oxidation of carbohydrate will be 0. Whereas in case of anaerobic respiration, if we see, there will be no oxygen utilization itself. So hence the respiratory quotient will be infinity. So that is regarding the concept of respiratory quotient. And the respiratory quotient, it also gives an account of the efficiency of oxygen utilized in the oxidation of the respiratory substrates, as well as it is also coupled with it of the amount of energy that is released during the process. So that is regarding the concept of respiratory quotient, and that is the end part of the synopsis for the chapter respiration in plants.